everyone. I'm Matthias with Zao Outdoor Ministries.
I'm Alexis.
And we're looking forward to having you on our hike coming up soon. We want to welcome you to our Zao base camp. You'll be here in a few weeks, and we want to let you know we're really excited about hiking together with you out at Cape Scott. We've got some more info that will be in this video, and we hope you listen carefully, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
If there's anything you have questions about, or you're confused, or anything just in general, feel free to contact us via email or phone anytime before the trip. We want to hear from you. This is the annotated packing list. We know that you guys have this, or at least have access to getting it, and we want to highlight a bunch of the gear that's talked about on here and how that's going to help you on your trip, and some of the things that you don't want to bring because it's just unnecessary. So that's what we're going to look at coming up next.
So both Alexis and I work as professional backpacking guides with Zao, and on this particular trip you'll also get to meet Adam and Courtney. They'll be on the trip as well. And because we do this a lot, we see people show up with a lot of different things. So we've put work into this document that Alexis was referencing, and our expectation is that you read it, and you don't need to trust it implicitly, but we also want you to understand that we do know what we're talking about, especially as it relates to things that you won't need on the trip. So just as important as the things are that we suggest you take, and this is an opinionated document because we have strong opinions about what works well, so just as important as what you do take is what you don't take. So some examples of that would be hatchet. You know, you can leave that at home. That's for Boy Scouts and car camping trips. Rocks, probably don't want to pack those with you. You won't need them on the trip. There are plenty of rocks out on the beach at Cape Scott. Other things like, you know, heavy cotton clothing, jeans and whatnot, do read the document. We'll go over that more when we see you in person. So from here on, I'd like to highlight a few things that are really important that you do bring, or important that you do ask us to borrow if you don't have them. So we'd love to be able to help you with that. I guess another thing I'll say is we work really hard at doing this well, and part of doing it well is keeping your pack weight down. So one of the biggest gifts you can give to yourself is to leave some of those things that you think you might need but you're not totally sure. Just, you can leave those behind. They're listed in here as luxuries. We want to be able to help you keep your pack weight down. You're going to need to bring a few extra things, group related things. Everyone's going to have a piece of group equipment, whether it's part of a tent, fuel, part of the kitchen. There are other things. So we'll get into it now. If you're ready, we'll dig into the backpacks.
So there's some good ways to keep yourself warm and dry, because being wet and cold is exactly what we don't want on these trips. So this is going to be your little turtle or snail home for the week, packing everything in here. So we want to keep things warm and dry in here, so we have rain covers that cover this up and make a nice protective shield over all your stuff, so if it's raining then you're not getting any wet inside. Next we have different boots, which hopefully you guys are very familiar with your own boots already. Hopefully you can also notice some negatives and positives with the ones I'm showing you. This is a nice clappy boot. It's old and fallen apart. This was used on a real backpacking trip by a real student like yourselves, who unfortunately had to tape it and wire it shut. So we don't want this to happen to you. We want you guys to have some really good solid footwear that you've done lots of practice with, you've been out on hikes, and you're really comfortable with, so that we don't get blisters or repairs like this. Some of my favorite outdoor layers are things that are going to keep me warm when I'm in camp or on a cold morning. These lightweight gloves, they don't take much, but they're just an extra little layer to keep my hands warm. I get really cold fingers really easily. Something else that you're going to need is a good rain jacket. It doesn't have to be something fancy like this or super expensive, but it needs to keep you dry. so when the rain comes it's quick to slip on, and hopefully has a good hood that'll keep the rain off.
So Alexis mentioned that warm is dry and dry is warm, and of course on the same hand, wet is cold, and cold is wet. You know, that goes without saying. But on the coast, especially what we're doing, we're not just car camping, right? We're going out there. 20 kilometers to the outer coast from the parking lot. We're out there and we don't have access to dryers and whatnot. So we want to help you stay dry, and we'll talk more about that in person. If you have your own gear, that is awesome. We want you to be able to use your own gear, especially if it's appropriate. I'll just talk for a sec about something that might be a little too lightweight. So this is a synthetic overbag. If you have your own sleeping bag and you think it's appropriate, bring it and we can talk about it. This is really thin, and it's going to be windy, we'll get some rain, and it's going to be too cold, most likely, unless you're just a furnace overnight, and most of us aren't, especially in these tents. These tents are plenty warm with more people in them, but an overbag that's really thin, that's like a plus 10 degree bag rating, something like that, a little too lightweight. So save that for later in the summer. Also, if you have grandpa's old hand-me-down flannel rectangle bag, these are awesome for watching football games or picnics in places where you can drive with your car. They're really heavy and they don't pack well, and they're actually pretty cold. So you can leave that home as well. We have awesome gear. This is a -7 synthetic mummy bag. Students that come on trips with us, they love them. You can feel how warm that is. They really love them. So you can bring your own sleeping bag, and we might ask you to leave it behind if we think it's not quite right, because we have these excellent super warm bags. We get questions about how to organize gear, and if you have questions that are related to how to organize your gear, awesome. Just to reiterate what Alexis said, we love questions. In fact, we get worried. If we don't get questions the few weeks leading up to a trip, I start to get worried, because that makes me think that people assume that they just have it all dialed and they know. And usually that's not the case. So how are you going to organize your stuff? You've got sort of a garage sale going on here. You've got clothing, you've got toiletries. I want to suggest you can use garbage bags inside stuff sacks, and we have all that stuff for you. If you have some of these roll top stuff sacks, they can be really handy as well, because they're actually waterproofed on the inside, and you can fire clothes into there and keep your stuff organized by stuff sacks. I want to talk about some clothing as well, because we get a lot of questions about clothing. The puffy layer, right, this is your insulating layer. It could be fleece. It shouldn't be wool. Well, it could be wool, but that's usually not your insulating layer. It's a little bit thinner. These puffies are fantastic. We have them available to you. I know Mr. Nelson has some for the program. Take him up on his offer. If you don't have something like this, it's pretty much a must-have. Unless you have a bulky fleece, that works as well. Plenty warm, but they don't tend to pack as well. And we're going to jam a fair amount of stuff in our backpack. So that's something that we want you to have with you. If you have a soft shell, you know, Costco has soft shells. They're really economical. Something that's fleece lined and a little bit like a harder face fabric, that works really well. But I wouldn't go on a camping trip on Cape Scott with just this as my insulating layer. I need to have another layer, and so do you. Right? So we want you to have those insulating layers. We'll talk about more equipment coming up next after the commercial break.
You might be wondering about bathrooms and what you're gonna do out on Cape Scott. So good news, there's actually outhouses, and they aren't quite the comfort of your own home, but they're pretty darn close. So to make you a bit more comfortable, we're gonna show you what some of the devices that we bring along to go to the washroom. Obviously you need your toilet paper. They don't just have it out there in the wilderness sitting on trees like in the commercials, so that is something you need to pack with you. Also a lighter. It has many uses. One of them is for burning your toilet paper, which we'll talk about more when you guys show up. And last, and probably most important, is hand sanitizer. This is going to keep us healthy and keep things clean. So making sure that we use this before all our meals, after we go to the bathroom, anytime that you're like, I don't know if my hands are clean, should probably sanitize, because we want to stay healthy. So going to the washroom is part of that, and making sure that you sanitize is also going to help everyone stay healthy.
Thanks, Alexis. And you might have noticed that the toilet paper and hand sani was together in a Ziploc bag. We love Ziploc bags at Zao, and we use a lot of them. And then we get to reuse them, because most of the time they hold up fairly well. So Ziploc bags are great. I have all my toiletries in one Ziploc bag. We would love you to do the same. Kind of forces you to keep small and concise. And you can imagine how just a few grams here and there add up to kilos, and kilos equal pain, especially if they're extra kilos and you don't end up using them. So I'll show you what I have in my toiletries. Actually, yeah, that was a mistake. This is a knife that I'm not bringing with me. You might ask why. It's a pretty cool knife. Actually, yeah, it's like a Rambo style knife with a compass that doesn't work. And it's just big, and it's heavy, and it's bigger than we need. So on Zao trips, you're welcome to bring your own locking pocket knife, but we want to see a 2-inch maximum blade width. And you might ask us, why is that the case? Well, we have stories about knives that are more than 2 inches and knives that don't lock. Be sure to ask me. So I'll put this down and show you my toiletries bag. So this is like a Ziploc style bag. And would you believe I have everything in here that I need for a backpacking trip? I have a toothbrush in its own case. I've got little small sample sizes of moisturizer, which I know my hands need on trips. I have some Tylenol for myself that I probably won't use, but it's there just in case. What else is in here, Matthias? Oh, look, I have a little thing of soap, which needs to be refilled. But look, everything is really small. I'll even shave off, I don't have it in here, but I'll shave off a little piece of deodorant and put that into its own little sandwich bag. And that's my deodorant for the trip, because why bother, or it will be a bother, if you were to take that big Old Spice thing that's like a third full anyway, and they weigh about like 200 to 300 grams. I know, because I've weighed them. So slice off a little bit of deodorant if you're planning to bring deodorant, put it in a pill container or in a sandwich style bag, and you're good to go. We love Ziploc bags. We would love your toiletries kit to be small. Even hotel size shampoos and whatnot, that's going to be a little bit too much, and you can share amongst yourselves as well. So toiletries can be small, and then you will be lightweight and you will be happy.
All right, so water. We want to stay hydrated out on the trail. So having good amounts of water with you is really important. This is just 1 liter of water, and you're gonna hopefully be drinking more than this in a day. So we want you to bring more than 1 liter of water. So at least 1 of these, if not 2 of this size water bottle. Next thing is sun. Just because we've been talking lots about rain and cold doesn't mean that it could be bright and sunny and really warm. So we need some sunglasses so you can keep your eyes protected, and like Matthias is wearing, a hat. Keep your head protected, wear some good sunscreen like Matthias showed us in his toiletries kit. And yeah, other than that, we've talked about a lot of things in this video, and hopefully it's brought some good questions for you guys, and we want to hear those questions. And there's lots of stuff we haven't talked about, and lots more things in that list that you guys should be going through and hopefully thinking, oh, I'm not totally sure about this, and maybe you want to ask us more about it or just do some more research for yourself.
Please do ask questions. In fact, I would love to hear from you, students and or parents, about any questions, or just as a check-in. So I will be calling in the next couple of weeks just to check in with you, but the invitation is there for you to call me as well. And if it's a question that's appropriate for Alexis, maybe from those of you girls on the trip, that is great too. I would love to put you in touch with one another. We often do that before trips, and we think it's a great idea. Do read this. It's your packing list. We've put lots of work into it, and as you collect this equipment, borrowing from friends or buying new or used in stores, please practice with it. That is the best thing that you can do. We're gonna be happy that you're here when you arrive, and it's gonna be sad if you arrive and you haven't practiced with your gear and you're not familiar with it. So now is the time to be familiar with your equipment. Keep it in a corner of your room even. Play with it. Pack your bag. If you're borrowing a backpack from us, that's great. Weigh your stuff. You can totally nerd out, and it's gonna go really well if you do that. So do practice with your equipment. Get in touch with us. We're really looking forward to having you on this trip.